You're on.
It's October, it's October 29th. This is a meeting of the Tufton Borough Budget Committee meeting. We have a quorum. First order of business will be the salute to the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Public input?
What?
Anybody have anything?
I'm all set.
Oh, okay. You're good.
Well, you know, we're not used to seeing anybody sitting over there. That's all.
Very well, then moving on to the review and approval of the October 1st minutes. Anybody see anything that was out of askance or out of order? I didn't.
Yeah, fine by me.
I move that we accept the October 1st minutes as written.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded.
I'm going to abstain since I wasn't here.
Yes, understand. Other than that, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, that's, and Helen has abstained. Chairman's comments?
Are we without a secretary tonight?
Yes, we are. Karen is ill, so she'll be working off the tape for our minutes for the
Thank you, Joe.
next time around. Chairman's comments, I don't have anything really outstanding this evening. I understand, however, that Chip and Tom did get together and talk about the health insurance situation.
Yes, and if you like, I'd like to add what we did. or
That's fine, go right ahead.
Briefly. What I recommended to Chip was, and certainly they're not the only ones, but I had gotten in touch with him ahead of time, found out who the right people were to talk to, who handled their municipal accounts. And you know, the guy asked me to introduce him to Chip, which I did over the phone, and gave him all the phone contacts. And I said, you know, Chip, you guys are going out and trying to get quotes on your own. You don't have to do that. These people are professionals. They have all the contacts. They will come to you with the quotes. What you have to provide them is the information, what your population is, the ages, the this, the that. And so, and he has all that information, and he wants to go follow up on it as far as I know. But I didn't get to give him because I couldn't find it. I was hoping I was going to see him tonight because I had come across an article on what some municipalities are doing about the health insurance issue and how they're treating it. And I have that for him, but
Well, hopefully we'll be joining us eventually. Well,
yeah. Anyway, that's.
Very well, let's move on to the meeting evening, which is our budget reviews. First one is the library. Christie? Floor chair.
Okay, before we start with that, could I just
Take this chair and I'll get some.
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's quite all right.
Thanks, Bob.
I was a little bit alarmed when I went through the budgets that we have to go over this evening. Everybody wants like a huge increase.
I had exactly the same reaction.
And it's just, you know, I can't sign off on a budget like that. It's just, with this evening's packages, we will have looked at about 28% of the budget. I don't have a percent increase, but every single department wanted a big increase with the exception of executive. They wanted more than a 5% increase. And, you know, we did save money with the $50,000 with the revaluation this year, but it's going to be all eaten up with, and I think that when we get to town meeting, it's not going to be, I don't think that the population of Tufton Borough is going to be very happy if we give them a 10% increase in the budget again this year. So, anyway, I just wanted to say that before we started out.
I agree with you. Wow. I'm speechless.
Well, unfortunately, the selectman's not here to defend their budget, so he's going to have to,
He's on his way.
he's on his way.
He's on his way.
Well, let's start with the library then, however. Christie?
Okay. Yes.
There is an increase in the library budget, mainly in utilities, which we are estimating at this point because we really don't know what to expect. We've never used propane before. We will have all LED lighting, we will have better insulation, we will have new windows. We will be an altogether more energy efficient building when this process is done, but it's bigger, and so it will cost more to heat and cool. So these are estimates for heat and electricity that one of our trustees put together in January. And they're not double this year's costs, but they are more. The largest expense that we have, of course, is salaries. And that line is actually down $17 from last year because 4 people out of 6 on the staff are at the top of the salary scale. And we only have 52 weeks to budget for this year.
Right, and I noticed you don't have Mary Ann. Oh, yeah, there she is. Never mind.
I think everybody's.
Thank you for
in there.
saying that about the 52 weeks, because last year, every single person who came in said, and there's 53 pay weeks in this year, but nobody else has yet to mention the 52 weeks.
Well, I remembered it, so. And I figured that if we did a 1% increase, a 1.7% increase across the board, it would, we should be looking at 1.3 million, but everybody's payroll.
Christine, it's staff salaries, it says exclusive of benefits, A and B. Where do those benefits show up in the budget?
Benefits show up as a whole different line item in the budget, which we will get, that's what we're referring to.
Comes under personnel administration.
Yeah.
And we see that generally, after we've approved everybody's salary, then we vote again on their salary, which is a little weird, but
I was
that's.
just wondering where that might show up.
Oh, well, it'll show up, but as I said, it'll be one of the
I
arguments.
assumed it would.
I would also like to comment that
Yes,
I'm not sure how this works, but Christie, when they present us with the personnel administration budget, there are no names listed for privacy reasons.
no.
You've listed everybody's first and last names on this privacy issue. Are you not worried about that?
No.
Okay, thank you. I'm not either, but it was a point.
Mhm.
There were a couple of years when I didn't list people's names and everyone wanted to know who it was, so I thought it was easier.
I think the privacy issue is more the
The
health.
healthcare and
Yeah.
not the salary. I think the salary is pretty much
So
public.
then
and-
personnel administration could have the names because all we get for the healthcare is one lump sum at the bottom.
We get one lump sum at the bottom, but it's not by person.
Right,
And that's
so
what
they
the-
could put the names down as far as the rest of the salary information went.
I think
Like
they-
Pittsfield and Barnstead do, no, they don't, I have it here. It's listed as officer and this and that, and many towns, in fact, Pittsfield, anybody they pay money to gets listed in the name of the town report. Very interesting. This privacy thing is a real pain in the butt, I think, for everybody.
Public employees, we ought to know who they are and what they're making.
Well, it is available.
Yeah, anybody can find out, just go
Anybody
to
can
the
find out.
website, it's not like,
Right.
why they have to hide it, I don't know, because anybody can figure it out. Anyway,
Back to the library.
right, that's, yeah, the new building is an unknown, it isn't really.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
no, we're-
Educated guess.
and that's exactly it, because, you know, we know that it's gonna cost us more to heat it, but in that, because first of all, but we have no history with propane, but it's going to be a much more energy efficient building than what we're dealing with now. We know it's gonna cost us more to electric, because it's obviously more lighting, but that's all gonna be mitigated by LED lighting.
Sure.
We're gonna have the air conditioning in the summertime, but we're not gonna be having all those, you know,
The individual homes.
individual ones hanging out the windows.
God knows how old
Power
some of them
light.
were, yeah.
Well, actually, they're up now.
Were?
Yeah, we paid too much of them
Good.
a couple of years ago, so look on Craigslist for
Um,
those.
So,
Um,
you think you've guessed on the high side, I hope?
I hope we have.
Yeah, I'd like to think
But
so.
we're
Okay,
probably
good.
not gonna know for a couple of
I-
years,
I-
you know, we're gonna need a couple of
Oh,
years
the other
of
day when
history.
we were
I don't wanna see you guys in the shorts.
Finally found it.
Well,
I don't either.
That
No.
heat request 6,650, 5,500 gallons of fuel, which sounds like an enormous amount of fuel. Yeah, at $1.19 or whatever it is, a dollar, $1.19, 6,500, that'd be 5,500 gallons of fuel.
Well, we're still going to be heating the old section of the building for the year too, so, as I say, it's a crapshoot.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, and that's the kindest way I can put it. It's our best guess estimates, and if obviously, if we don't spend it, it goes back to the town anyway, so.
Yeah.
Anything else you have there, Christie? You want to talk about the computers?
No, I don't think so. We are replacing a couple of computers. We're getting two new desktop computers, one for the public, one for the staff, and two laptops, also one for the public and one for the staff. The staff laptop, we're replacing the treasurer's laptop with one of our staff ones, and this one will replace that one. So we're sort of trying to do the best we
Do
can.
we need them all in 1 year? Any fudge room there?
We need, we may have to replace one of our desktop computers. It's at the computer board right now, so that may be unavoidable. And we need to buy at least one laptop. We also want to have a laptop for public use, because then people can take it anywhere in the library and use it. They don't have to sit at a station.
Do many people bring their own laptops in?
A lot of people do,
But not everybody.
but not everybody, yeah. Not everybody owns a computer. And the two computers that we have, well, now it's one desktop and a laptop that's being used, are full for most of the day. They really don't get a lot of use.
And it's going to get more when we build buildings too, we'll guarantee you.
We will do whatever we can to save money there. We can buy software licenses through TechSoup, for instance. We don't have to get those through Computer Port, and it's a lot less expensive. So we'll do that wherever we can.
How about the outside maintenance? You got, it says that someone shoveling the roof, sanding, roof breaking.
That's not in this budget.
Where does that show up?
That shows up in the town side of our
So the
buildings.
town maintains that, that's it.
How it works with the library is the library takes care of everything inside the building for maintenance, cleaning, heating, light, we pay those bills. Anything outside the building, the town takes care of. It's the only facility in
I
town
would
that can do
assume that
that.
new roof shouldn't have to be shoveled.
Well,
The old one might.
Although we're replacing the old roof too, so.
So it brought back memories to see you have a library page, because for my junior and senior year in high school, that was my part-time job in the town library. I was paid a little less. I was paid $1.15 an hour.
Yeah.
But that was a very long time ago.
You were probably overpaid, like we are.
No, I was the master of the Dewey Decimal System.
Very important. Pages are crucial.
Any questions for Christie?
I just kind of going along with what Helen said about everything being up, and just going through numbers. The library budget's up 66,000 in 5 years, which is 35%, which is about 7% a year. But this year, however, it's up 15% with a $32,000 increase. And I was wondering why there's such a jump from 7 to 15%.
The addition,
It's
all the
The addition is not in this budget, though, is it?
No, what the maintenance portion of it is.
the maintenance part of it is, yeah. Heat, electricity, and maintenance for cleaning.
All right, so we assume it's doubling the increase.
Yeah.
You doubling the space? Is that how that works?
As I said,
The heat and electricity aren't doubled from this year, but they're more, and
Yeah, 'cause I'm just going by the bottom number from 2014 and 15. just-
well, when you start doing that, then you also have to go back and look and see what full salary structure in town was too.
Yeah.
Going back to 2014, and then the study that was made, and we had that huge increase in a very short period of time. And now it's, now it's more manageable level. But if you're trying to go back 5 or 6 years and look at today, it's awfully difficult because of that, that big jump in the middle of that.
But it's still an upwards trend, it's,
Well,
which can't continue for forever.
It's an upwards trend, but I was willing to give them, to cut some slack because it is a new, they've got
Yeah.
so much new
No, I-
going on.
No, I understand, I think the library is well run.
But I do agree with
It's a matter, as you say, when you go to town meeting, a lot of people don't use the library. A lot of people don't like the library. A lot of people, the older people that I talk to, don't like their tax bill. And they go, well, and that's part of why I'm here, is because they said, what can anybody do anything to just try and slow this down? You can try, that's all you can do is try. And could you ask everybody, hey, out of the increase this year, could you shave 5% off of it? $50 on 1,000,
well,
just as an effort. I mean, that's not a lot of money, but it shows an effort. Instead of the rubber stamp, it seems like the rubber stamping's been going on. Well, that's what they want, that's what they need, boom, you got it.
I'm lost, Barry.
Well,
I'm lost. You got an $8,525 increase from year to year. Where's the slippage that you're talking about? I mean, I'm just,
I think he's
Where are you
looking
going
at
back
the,
to
at the,
2014?
I'm just
look
starting
at
at
the
14.
second line, not the excluding the salaries.
Yeah,
Is that what you were looking at, Barry?
I was just going along the bottom line.
yeah, I'm just looking at last year was 217,000, this year's 225. If you want to go all the way back to 14,
And that's really only about 4% increase in the total.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you're gonna have some increase year to year,
So that's what-
regardless of your desire not to,
from 2000.
You just from inflation.
Yeah, but there's some things inflation does occur, but there's other things that
Yeah.
could be put off, or maybe delayed a little bit,
this is these are our numbers going back to 2009. Our numbers, the library numbers, excuse me.
Right.
As I say, if you take salaries out of the equation, okay, the level of increase since 2009 has been minimal.
Yeah, I don't,
Really not.
do I have that piece of paper?
I just,
It's coming.
Pass it on.
Oh, I guess we got multiples.
Well, I would like to say that I am, if you would ask me 10 years ago, I would have said libraries are just going to become obsolete. But I'm gratified to see what you and the staff have done to expand the uses of the library between author presentations and art displays and programs, and I think the staff has really done a good job.
thank you. We look forward to doing even more when we have a little more room.
So,
I move that we approve the library budget in the, for 4550 in the amount of $225,604.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? None forthcoming? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye. Or no? Nay.
Are you for or against?
I'm against.
I'm sorry, Guy, did you go aye?
I voted yes.
Okay, because I was just trying to get the numbers from Karen later on.
Yep.
So what is the count?
The count is 6-1.
6-1.
Thank you.
Thank thank you all for your consideration. Appreciate it.
Christie. I'm looking forward to your new library.
So are we.
The windows are beautiful.
They are, aren't they? It's a great gift.
Yes.
Did Pella give you those?
Almost.
Mr. Hadley?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm glad that worked out.
Me too. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on then to 4191, planning and zoning. Hey, Matt,
Hello. Where would you like?
why don't you come up sit with us?
All right, as you look at the budget, you will see that it is up. Whenever I look at a budget, I like to look at the abnormalities first, and you'll see the largest abnormality you will see there will be under supplies, and that is the replacement of the planning secretary's computer, which apparently is 10 years old and is due for replacement. The major reasons for the increases are twofold. One being that the applications are more numerous, and two, that the education that the board has undertaken this past year and as well as this coming year is expensive. So when we attend a conference, the municipal association, you have 5 or 6 people attend, that's $500 or $600. But it's a necessary evil, there's no way around it. If your board isn't educated on planning and zoning, then it's probably gonna cost you more than the cost of the education in the long run. Because the applications are more numerous, and because the applications are much more complicated than they used to be, the planning board secretary is spending more time than she used to on an application. A subdivision, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, would take 15 hours, of the planning board secretary's time. And a subdivision today, we just completed one where she probably had 100 hours. Right now, she is actually not charging us quite a bit of the time. When she works from home, I get emails from her midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. But we are counting on having more hours that will be required to process the applications. Some of the increases you see are paid for by the applicants, but they're required to be listed as a cost. When they are reimbursed, they go back to the town. So some of the things you see there, such as postage. I don't really like having a department that isn't profitable. It doesn't seem natural to me. So some of the things we are looking at are application fees to be instituted. When people have applications, they'll cover the costs for the town. We're looking at what other towns are charging. For a subdivision, they might have $150 or a $200 fee to help cover the hours that are involved, the paper, what keeps the lights on. There are other options the town has that would require some work ahead of time on some of these that can help to generate more income for the town, such as impact fees. But these are things that need to be thought about ahead of time and put into practice. The nice thing with things like that is they affect the person who is coming to the town and wants to do it. It doesn't affect the other taxpayers, although it's alleviated some of the burden of maintenance or schools or libraries or whatnot. So,
That's what's happening with the master plan review. I see that you requested a smaller amount than last year, but the selectmen restored it to the same as last year.
yep. So the master plan is required to be completed every, I think it's 10 years. We are at least a year and a half overdue on completing it. There's a lot of reasons for that, but mainly we've had some changes on the planning board as far as who the chair was, people on the board who were in charge of it. Lakes Region Planning Commission, who's doing a lot of the writing, has been behind. They prepare master plans and help guide towns through it. It's an association that we paid for to be part of. There's been a few very very direct phone calls with them about where we stand, and emails. Right now, it is scheduled to be completed for the spring. There will have to be public input, public meetings. It's quite a process that we go through. The master plan is not a statutory document. It's not a law or a rule that we follow. It's meant to be a guide when writing zoning, or, as the town goes, it's meant to be directional in its nature. So it doesn't affect how we operate or how the planning board or the zoning board or, such that's day-to-day business. But it's there so that as we change zoning or we write zoning, it's clear what the intention of the people in the town is, or what direction they want to see us going. So we do need to finish it, and we intend to.
I noticed that, at least it's up to this report, you got about $5,000 left in the 2019 budget. Do you anticipate spending that $5,000?
I think by the time our bills from the attorneys come in,
Mhm.
I think that'll be gone and then some.
Okay.
That was one of the other large increases, was the legal.
Yep.
I wish I had a way around that, but I don't. Some of these applications have been fairly intense. I don't anticipate that changing anytime in the near future. Almost every major application we've had has had challenges, either from abutters or concerned individuals. A lot of times they're well represented, and we have to make sure that we have the I's dotted and T's crossed, and that the planning board is conducting itself in a legal manner. And that means that we are a very good customer for Donaher, Tucker, and Cyrodiil.
And Matt, in that, the Farm Island thing,
Mm-hmm.
went on and on and on and on, which increases the cost.
You know, things like that, you say that they're more technical than this, but those people pretty much were dead legal and everything. And they got asked to do a few extra things, and then they got asked to do a few more things. And then Camp Belknap was jumping through hoops, asking them to do almost anything, because they dropped the ball, which prolonged that, which caused a lot of anguish on the people on both sides of the issue, and which cost the town a lot of money. How can you just say, look, here's the issue, they've applied for it, they've met all the legal regulations, a little public input, and then make a decision? Because that's the planning board's job, is to make a decision if they meet all the required criteria.
Yeah, absolutely. So a typical subdivision will usually be 3 to 4 meetings. And in this case, it was 5 meetings before it went. When the planning board looks at an application, every decision, it's not enough for the planning board to simply go and make a decision, because the decision could be technically perfect. It could be the correct decision as the zoning laws are written the way they are. But if you're not taking the information you receive, if you're not taking the information and reviewing it and allowing for offsetting information. So for instance, if an application, an applicant is going for a subdivision, and someone presents information saying, well, we believe this is a regional impact because of X, Y, and Z. If you don't have the offsetting data to balance that out, and the board then goes and says, well, we don't believe we have a regional impact here, then the basis of the decision can be appealed and very well could get thrown out.
But that would be on the people.
Actually, that would be on the board.
Yeah.
If the appeal, if it gets appealed, it would be on you.
So when the board goes, for instance, say you have listened to, endless hours of talk, and if the board says, all right, we're ready to vote, and the board says we vote, and it's 5-0, that can also be appealed, because there's no discussion about why.
So if they appeal something like that, but the town prevails.
Doesn't
okay, so
matter.
that-
Would, if they appeal, it would go to the zoning board first. So it would go to the zoning board, and what they would appeal is the specific reason, that the planning board erred. So whatever that might be. And then it more than likely gets kicked back, you know, and then you kind of have to start the process over again. So while it takes longer to do it the right way, which is to take in all the information and to allow the two sides to balance, in the end, you have a decision that sits on a firm foundation and is not likely to be overthrown or not likely to be appealed by, you know, or be overruled by the ZBA or Superior Court. So that's the nature of it. And while we, you know, when we have a complicated application, we do spend a fair amount of money on legal. I'm a firm believer that I would rather spend the money up front and get it right than to have it appealed, kicked back, and, you know, have to defend a decision, because you can spend, you know, defending a decision, you can spend.
Either way, it's gonna cost you.
Yes.
Yeah, the
The
lawyers
courts-
love it.
Well, no, the courts have made it pretty clear that even if the town were to prevail, we're not gonna get our legal fees.
No.
But two things that came to my mind when Bill Marcuson was presenting this to us were we need to look at our costs over the past 2 years. What are the actual costs for planning and zoning? Because I don't think that our application fees are actually covering that cost.
No.
And so I think we need to review our application fee. And there's a bill working its way through the legislature, which would say that we can't require an independent engineer to do road specs or oversee the road constructions. That if we want that to happen, we gotta pay for it. Well, we do want that to happen, I'm sure, because we don't want the engineer who's designing the road being the only professional to look at it. So I think that would add additional money to the application fee, I think, as well. So I think we really should all sit down at some point later on this year and look at our application fees and see if we can't at least make it break even or come pretty close.
Yeah, because
No,
it should be on the applicants,
I agree.
more so than the town.
I think there's some elasticity that's available too in the applicant fee. You know, when you're doing a major subdivision, you're looking at $50,000 or $60,000 in engineering and soil
Right.
scientists and everything else. So $395 for an application fee is, you know. it's-
Yeah, I'm talking to Mike Cryans, our executive counselor, you know, to do a development in Hanover where he lives. You're looking at $70,000 or $80,000 worth of application fees. That's nowhere near what we're going for here, obviously. We're looking for the postage and a few other
Well, the
things.
postage, many of these things, you know, postage being one that you're reimbursed for. But a lot of it is just the planning board secretary's time.
Right.
You know, she receives so many requests for information, you know, and every time there's a question, she has to, if she doesn't know, which most of the time she does, she has to research it. If we don't know and we're not sure, we have to get a legal opinion.
Right.
Most of the time, we can get that from the New Hampshire Municipal Association, you know, which we pay for. But, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're working on a legal opinion from New Hampshire municipals, they're not gonna defend you in a court of law.
No.
So you need to have Chirandilla there or whoever. But I remember when Sue and I were selectmen years ago, we made a point of figuring out how the code office can be cost neutral. And I think we need to do the same, and that's through fees for applicants and permits, et cetera.
I mean, we can make this profitable if you want, but I mean,
I don't know that we can make it profitable.
I assure you I can. But I mean,
That might curtail subdivisions and whatever in time.
There's two sides to that coin.
You know, years ago, one of the reasons the town went and wanted to have a capital improvements plan and capital improvements committees for impact fees, you know, on subdivisions and such. But you know, you can't just, you know, suddenly have that application before you and say, all right, I want you to give me money. You know, you actually have to have a study, you have to assign where you want these fees to go. You know, whether it's a school or library or such and so forth. You have to, you know, ascertain how much per household, you know, such. So, I mean, A lot of towns are doing it. We certainly can, but it's something that will require some homework.
Yeah, the big issue that you come up against on the legal point, and it's almost a proven strategy with commercial developers, is that they will do the appeal process, because they're working off construction funds probably on another project, but it's costing you the money to defend that. And they do it because they can get you to change some of your zoning regs. It's sometimes cheaper than thinking about the legal appeal process. And there's no way, I mean, it's part of their game plan. I was in that business. It's unfortunate, but it's true to the big developer is going to sit there and he's going to figure out how he can influence planning of his project, and he always knows the appeal process is there, and it gets written through his construction costs as on probably some other project. It's unfortunate, but it's real.
I had just, this one is really nitpicky, but the Lakes Region Planning Commission, the invoice that they
What is that
sent.
number, huh?
Yeah, it said the invoice was gonna be $4,409 and the issue budgeted $4,496.
I don't have an answer for you on that, but I can get
Yeah, I
that.
think that they've increased it. We asked that question.
Well, it says that it's it's due June of 2020.
Oh, and it's 21, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I noticed that number too, and I said, 'cause I wrote down, where's this number appear?
So, and then I personally would also like to see the master plan number go back to what you had requested, which was the 1,000. I mean, it's just, I would really love to see something shaved out of this.
Matt, on that Lakes Region Planning Commission,
Mhm.
and they're involved with the master plan also, you said they'd drag their feet on some of this
Yeah,
stuff.
they review and draft a lot of it.
Now, that's a contribution from the town to them, right? We contribute?
I mean, we pay them, yeah.
Yeah, but it's listed as a contribution.
That's different from the master plan.
Now, if that contribution there is going to them and they're costing us money and time down below here, maybe we shouldn't contribute quite as much money to them.
I actually already asked them for a 20% discount because they have taken so long on the
Yeah.
master plan. That was one of my, I like to call them nasty grains to them, but shockingly, they never responded to me about that.
I bet they do.
I also would like to comment that I hear you do a great job, and I think that you've brought quite a bit of professionalism to that department.
Oh, thanks.
So, and I like the idea that you're spending on tuition for the members.
We really had to. There was quite a bit of turmoil on the board with new members. So they actually, the educational classes that they have provided by New Hampshire Municipal Association primarily, they're very good. It's incredibly dry.
Matt, can I ask you one other question, just an explanation? Because it says, the increase in this line is a direct result of the purchase of an outdated computer.
The purchase of it.
Why are we purchasing an outdated?
No, I think that was incorrectly phrased. They are purchasing a computer to replace an outdated computer.
I was wondering why you were going out buying an outdated computer.
Well, worth looking into on computers. That particular computer there is primarily used for some Excel spreadsheets, Word documents, and email. And so at our business, when we have a computer that is not being used for intensive purposes, like it's not running a DMS system or something like that, we actually buy rebuilds. And they tend to be a few $100s instead of $8,000. So, just a thought.
The secretary has mentioned that she would like to end her employment with the town of Tufton Borough
the master plan review is finally complete.
Mhm.
You've been very fortunate that it's dragged along, as
Mhm.
long as it has in that respect.
Who's to say that's not part of the strategy?
That I don't know. You've been very busy. Are you engaged at all in the search for a possible replacement? Yeah.
I've come to an agreement with the planning board secretary to continue her employment for an unknown amount of time. The problem with that position is that there are probably 3 people in the town of Tuftonboro,
Mhm.
one of them sitting behind us,
Yeah.
who would be capable of doing that, and they're virtually impossible to replace. You're talking about a skill level, that's equivalent to a
I've
paralegal.
worked with her before, another committee.
And, if you have a poor planning board secretary, I can't possibly tell you how expensive it would become for the town, just in the lawsuits for, whether it's right to know law or any kind of notification periods, notices of decisions, things like that aren't done right. So if there was one thing that our department, or one piece of advice I'd have is that we should do whatever it takes to retain her in her position, because it is not a simple person to replace. And she does a very good job.
Just happy to hear that. We're not in any danger at the moment, so.
Not in the immediate future.
Yes, I appreciate what Matt's saying, but what do we do with plane crashes? What do we do when the car drives off the road? Maybe we need an intern, maybe we need we have no bench currently. If you're right that there are only a handful of people that could do that job in town, we need to create some more people who can do that job, just for peace of mind, if nothing else.
It's an incredible,
Yeah.
land use is incredibly boring. It's not very exciting, so it doesn't exactly draw people to it. So,
Okay, other questions for Matt?
Matt, using my math, which is always questionable,
so's mine.
I think your budget's up about 23% over what it was last year.
Mhm.
Is there any room in there, in that amount, which is $6,500, can you shave 5%, $50 on 1,000, somewhere in that budget?
I would look at it as a rebuilt computer.
Yeah, just as a matter of goodwill and an effort,
And then I would look at incomes that can be produced from it. It's fine to spend more as long as you make more.
yeah.
But those are the items that jump right out at me.
Yeah. Yeah, I see, those are the things that people ask me about, so,
Yeah, sure. But
and I just say,
Or we could put the master plan review back to $1,000 instead of $1,500, which is what he had asked for.
yeah, and maybe that Lakes Region planning thing could get knocked back just a little bit, see, we'll give you more if you, get off your butts and stop dragging your feet on this. It just is a little nudge to it.
I don't have any problem knocking master plan funding back. It doesn't bother me.
Well,
So where else?
I made a motion then.
Are you making a motion?
Yes, I'd make a motion that we deduct some from the Lake Region Planning
So
Commission.
you gotta come up with a number, Barry.
A number?
Yeah.
I would say we deduct $1,000 from the Lakes Region Planning Commission, and we deduct $500 from the Master Plan Review.
Deducting from the planning commission, because that is a set fee, would be difficult. In other words, we wouldn't be part of the Lakes Region Planning Commission.
Even if you're still giving a contribution.
And that could have some long-term implications that could be more expensive than what we're saving. So I would look for other areas.
Do you think that's a benefit to be in that to the town?
Although this is the only place where it hits the budget, it also gave us the culvert study, which they didn't charge us for, the paving study, which they didn't charge us for, and
The traffic study at Tuftonboro Corner, they
traffic
did
study
2
in
weeks' notice,
Tuftonboro Corner.
free.
And there are any number of services that we've gotten out of the Lakes Region Planning Commission. Unfortunately, the planning board budget's where it hit, so, but if you deduct $1,000 from that, you're just not a number anymore.
Yeah,
You no longer get the services that they provide. You might as well not send anything.
Right.
because they won't accept less than.
Yeah, unfortunately, the time to do this when you're negotiating the contract.
How often does that come up with negotiations?
I think
Is that
it's
a one
some
contract and you
negotiate
stop?
that. I've never.
Yeah,
had
it's
to
not a
negotiate.
negotiable fee, actually, they do it based on population, and I think it's statutory. And that's the only place you can go for highway funds, for instance. That's where it goes from the state to the local planning commission. It doesn't come to the town, so if we want to petition to get 171 paved or whatever.
How would you feel
that's how
about
you do it.
maybe subtracting $500 from the new computer?
You can still buy a nice rebuild and still have no issue.
Well,
I'd say-
that
I'd
would
say-
give you
I'd say 500 on the
$330.
computer, and I would say 500 on the master plan review, which gives us $1,000.
And I would also, as much as I feel it's really a good requirement, maybe take a couple of $100 out of the tuition reimbursement. If we were to do that, that would give us $1,200.
But then we're asking for planning board members to take some of that cost themselves
If they're going to.
If they're going to
if they want to participate.
Well, but the cost is roughly $100 per session
Per person.
Is that
per
a,
person, so that's 14 people, 14 sessions, it would be like 7 people going to 2 classes.
I know you've had a lot of turnover in the planning board.
Mhm.
So are you expecting that tuition to go annually will be the same amount of money, or is this a particularly,
I would like
Big
every-
year.
this year has been a big year, but I would like everyone to attend a minimum of 1 class per year. And different people, you know, I take classes on Class 6 roads. I mean, they get very unique, each class.
How many people are on the planning board?
I believe there's 7.
7. So the number that you have in here is basically everybody going to 2 classes
Correct.
next year.
I mean, the other thing you have to look at is it does form a certain amount of commitment. It's hard enough to fill these volunteer boards as it is. If you can get people to attend a couple of seminars, they're more invested in. And I mean, I'm sure it would make Matt's job a lot easier too, if you're just not trying to explain everything to everybody.
Well,
No, they're
I
pretty
think
good.
I think it's important, the education is important, and even in our cases with the budget committee. I mean, every time we go to that meeting, you know, we're walking out of there with new ideas and something new that's come up over the year before. And to remove yourself from that, I think is a big mistake.
Well, and one of the things out there in the air that Matt has to deal with all the time is, you know, the lack of education of the planning board, for want of a better term. You know, the apparent limited skill set. And that is only overcome, one, by the chairman's, you know, pontifications, but more importantly, by him being able to say, hey, you know, that's all bullshit, because these people have all gone to these classes, and we're all up to speed on this. We don't need you know, being second guessed.
There's not a more important job that's done in your community than in planning, because,
What happened to the selectmen?
Well, no, because
sure the
as
chiefs really like that.
if you don't have the competence and the educated competence on that committee, and you have your developers and your professional commercial people coming in, you're in harm's way.
Well, the fact of the matter is it manages your income. All right, the tax base, you know, the property is your income. That's what makes the town tick.
Right.
And the planning, you know, planning and zoning is what manages the property values, you know, make sure the property values stay relatively high, make sure it's safe, such and so forth. So, I mean, we can sit here and fight over $200. It's not gonna stop me from sending somebody to the, to the meeting.
If we went with that $1,000, she said Helen's trying to find a little bit more.
That would be,
And if we went back to this 4409 and this 4496 and deducted the difference there,
it's only about $90.
because they claim this is what they get, right? 4409. And this figure here is 4496. So it'd be another $87 of what they add to the $1,000 and get you almost to 1,100.
This might last for on the tuition is, you know, Matt probably doesn't want to sit there forever either, as chairman of the planning board. I mean, I can't imagine it's a
I
very
don't wanna
nice
sit
job.
there now.
And the only way you're gonna replace him, or hope to replace him, is to have someone on the bench. And I don't think currently we have a bench.
No, there's some good people there.
I'm not saying they're not good people, I'm
No,
just saying they
they're-
need to
Yeah.
come up to speed.
But I mean, it takes years.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
So are you in charge of the ZBA budget also, or is that separate?
I have never had to deal with the ZBA budget before, but this is my first time being here.
Yeah, usually
Howard.
it's somebody else comes and talks to
I
that.
mean, I'll talk to you about the ZBA budget if you want. I mean, I don't think they've had an increase in
It's flat to last
applications.
year, so, you know, that makes me happy, but.
Yeah, the ZBA's they only deal with basically amendments, zonings, or appeals, so they deal with a lot fewer.
We can get tied up in, being a member. Our big impact can be on the legal side. If we get an appeal and they start going into the courts, in terms of when we turn down an appeal. But I think the budget is pretty stable over the.
Yeah, the ZBA is gonna be, a large increase is gonna be an Ethel amount.
Absolutely.
Usually it's a few.
That's like with your Dietz property, the Dietz situation.
I took a class on
It's, I mean,
Okay.
that went right into the
motion,
subject.
you have a motion yet?
I would make a motion that we take $500 out of the supply line and $500 out of the master plan review, and that we approve the budget for 4191 in the amount of $26,673. That would mean an increase over last year's budget of $5,500, which is an increase of 26%.
What was the first one, Helen, that you deducted?
From supplies, 500 from supplies, and 500 from the master plan.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion?
What did the balance come out to be, Helen?
$26,673.
All right, no further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
I don't know about those. We voted for different budgets, I have to do it.
No problem. Been a pleasure, guys.
6,
Nice job.
0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt.
Moving on, Parks and Recreation. Dennis?
That seems interesting. Sorry, people check out. He's not here. All right. Yes, they're all coming, so.
Not sure I know anyone here, so. Dennis, how are you?
How's the flagpole doing?
Yeah.
No, Lloyd and Chip, that's about him.
Well, we'll introduce ourselves. Bob Dennis, Bob Zev, Guy Pike, Barry Ennis, of course you know Chip, Val Hartshorn, Tom Young, 49. Sus. So,
How's everyone doing?
what would you like to talk about as far as your budget?
Well, I think between Parks and Rec Commission and myself being a department head for 6 months, I've been, and with any adjustment made by the selectmen, we come up with a proposed budget. Overall, it's roughly $6,500 more than it was for 2019. Some of the changes, I think, based on just being here a short time and the increased time at the beach with the lifeguards and stuff, I've increased mine from 15 to 18, and certainly that's going to be increased because of the increased programming throughout the year. Right now, I'm basically running the program that you guys have had. Haven't really incorporated my ideas yet, so I think the extra time, right now, it's basically between 10 and 15 hours a week. It's a part-time position. The summertime was obviously a little more hours than I think we expected, but we increased that to 18,000. The swim coach, it was somewhat of a disappointing season for us. We only had 4 swimmers, and we do have 2 or 3 swimmers from Tuftonville that have joined Wolfboro. So to pay 2 people for 4 people, to me is crazy. So we eliminated the swim team, swim coach. And again, I think that's totally based on the person you have running. You know, you could have the best facility and a terrible worker, it's not gonna go. You reverse it, and you have a bad facility with a great worker, it's gonna go. So until we find that person, I think the best thing we should do right now is just send 4 kids over to Wolfboro. The water safety instructor stayed the same. The town of Wolfboro is the same, but I was told after next year it's probably gonna go up. I just got an update. We had 579 Tuftonville participants. That's not 579 different people. Basically, we had 158. 158 basically for skiing and 44 for passes. And then between the skating and the swimming, half of it, over half of it out of those 579 is dealing with swimming and skating. And then right now, I think that's probably the best thing to do, just stay with that. The lifeguards, we stayed the same. The beach and wharf, we went up a little bit. We went over a little in 2019, so we increased that to 3. The recreational areas, we boosted pretty good. We went from 4 to 8. And one of the issues we're having, I think, is storage. I think if you go downstairs, you can see the stuff from the beach and the clutter that we have down there. It's probably not the best thing to do, so we're looking into one of those storage units to hopefully store some of that stuff. Not only Parks and Rec, but we have checked into it. There's a place up in Tamworth we looked at. So that's why we put that in there.
Is this talking about a pod or something like that?
No, those metal containers, those trailer type.
Yeah, right. Like we have across the library right now, where would you put it?
That's transfer station.
At transfer station, okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, we did increase that quite a bit. I'm waiting to hear on a grant we put in for the Meredith Bank for $5,000 for a Gaga pit and lower basketball hoops. So, for some reason, if we don't get that grant, there might be money left over to maybe take care of that out of the recreational fund. The office supplies has $775. It's jumped up simply because we've been paying for background checks for our lifeguards. The Microsoft Office we have up in my office is updated for $275. And the office supplies and advertisement, $450. I think, in the past, we've had a great resource with Gina doing a lot of the advertising with signs and posters and programs and things like that. So I don't have that. So I think we would probably need to increase that a little bit. So we did to $775. The beach and dock maintenance, we went up a little bit on that. And then the other thing we like to do is join this New Hampshire Recreation and Parks Association for a lot of different reasons, and that's only $50. So, initially when we're going through this process of the budget, there were issues like a lot of our programs apparently I'm told, come through the revolving fund. Whether it be the summer kickoff, or we just had the fall festival with the school, Easter egg hunt, or National Night Out, things like that, really don't show in here. And I think we've been using the revolving fund, which we're gonna continue to do that, so.
Does that also cover the summer concert series?
Summer concert series, we had one sponsorship, the bank, 1,500. And we made 2,500 between passing the hat and concession. So I think overall, based on what we bought from concession and what we made, we probably made $800 total for concession. But the, you know, the bands average between 500 and the most expensive was 750. And I thought we had a pretty, I mean, this is my first year, I can't really judge, but I thought we had a good participant in the summer concert series. We paid the bands $2,500. And like I say, the sponsorship from Meredith Bank was $1,500, which was cut back from the previous year from $2,500. So, yeah, I think being new, I think we didn't really want a lot of the sponsors that sponsor Old Home Days. So until I get a feel for what we're doing, you know, we'd probably like to get a few more sponsors, you know, for that. But, you know, I think very generous. I mean, with the donations of passing the hat, we brought in like $1,000, so.
Do you have any outstanding bills up?
The what, sir?
Do you have any outstanding bills now? I mean, for example, I'm looking at trash here. We budgeted for $800, we spent $36.
Well, I think the trash hasn't submitted their bill.
Yeah.
I thought number one.
Do they only submit it once a year?
Yes. That's a funny duck. He's, you know, we've talked to him a little bit. He's supposed to have some federal forms to sign, but he hasn't been doing that, so we're dealing with him now. We've had some trash issues this past summer, which I think we cleared up, and I think Lloyd and I are working on a few other things, so.
Yeah. We've had some issues with some of our subcontractors not wanting to fill up 1099s, whatever you need to generate a 1099. So,
You know, I don't see any particular issue that drives me over the edge, but I'm gonna sound like Barry and like Helen did when we started, and this is an increase of over 10%.
Yeah.
And where can we cut it to get it back to 5? Because it's awfully hard to defend 10% to the taxpayers.
I think the biggest item is that at 4,000 to 8,000. You know, that's probably the biggest increase.
yeah, if you take the $4,000 out, you're back down to 57,186.
Yeah.
So you're only at
Is that for the storage
the
thing?
$3,000 that we're gonna pay our director a little bit more money. Right.
And I got different prices on them too. I mean, one was $4,000, there was a smaller one for $3,300, but I was told through being a municipality, we could get it for $2,000, so.
Yeah.
I went up there a couple times and no one's there. It's up in Tamworth on the left.
Well, we're not paying anywhere near that for the pod that we have across the library right now.
You're renting it.
They're renting, not buying.
They're renting it to own.
No, we're renting it.
Right,
So
we're
this is the
buying
home.
it.
This would be the.
This is a,
Right.
you know, obviously.
What do you pay to rent?
It's like $100 a month, it's not very much at all.
And it's still, if you're doing it, that's $2,500
Okay,
over 2
well, I thought that was
years.
not, I was working, so this was a rental.
Are there any in-town alternatives to store?
Again, I don't know the town good enough. I know we're storing benches at different barns and stuff like that, but that was brought up.
I guess our motivation was not to increase the line annually to cover rental. And we've got some stuff stored up at the barn on the top of 171 up there, and some stuff down here in the basement. It was just to try to clean that part of the Parks and Rec business up. So I would imagine that in 2021, this line's gonna drop back down to whatever it was before, $3,000, but, so it's a one-time purchase. If you wanna not do it, our estimation was it was a good thing to do, and it doesn't really drive the budget that hard. But if you don't do that, then you're looking at just basically whatever we've gained on getting more work out of Dennis.
Can any of that stuff be stored in the pavilion, secured there?
It's all being stored currently.
Yeah, we
That's
left
not
one
good.
bench out there in
Yeah,
case
that's
someone
not-
comes down, so, you know, on a nice day to read, but I just think with me on the scene, the storage is gonna be more of a problem because, not that I'm a pack rat, but for example, we just had the Fall Festival, and we didn't really have a haunted trail. Well, Halloween was my specialty back in Massachusetts, and we used to run it at our house, and I had 2 coffins, and it took me 2 weeks to set it up, so our goal was to do something like that. Well, where do you store that stuff after? You know, so I just think with me on the scene, you're gonna get a lot more stuff, and the future might be to get something like that. But again, I don't know the other possibilities of where we can store it.
Well, I personally would like to see, let you get a little more time under your belt, and then maybe get it a year from now.
Yeah.
So it's just, you know.
I'm getting older though now.
Not you. Yeah, we'll get older.
So you know, I'm the youngest member of the board, I'm 65.
You are?
Yes,
I got you beat.
yeah, you do.
I don't think he's so convincing.
Well, I would say that, right, if we were going to be in, if the unit was needed to clean it up, then we might, spend some money to rent one for a year, okay? Take the burden off of what's coming up this year and then move it down the road. We want to purchase it for next year. Or get somebody who'll say, well, you can rent it with a lease to buy. I'm just starting that one out. I'm not saying that we don't need it, I'm just saying I think it's just one more thing on top of one more thing.
Yeah. Now, do you need a pod, or could you rent a storage unit in town that's already in existence?
No, I can say no to that. I'm aware that all the storage buildings that are in town now have been rented.
How about the marketplace for used semi-trailers that are no longer street worthy? They sell for a pretty reasonable price, and they're pretty secure. I don't, they're not the nicest looking things,
No,
but,
but that's what would come up. People would go, where are you gonna keep that?
well, up at the
Yeah.
transfer station would
Transfer
be
station, perfect, yeah.
one area that you could do that, and probably
Yeah.
pick one up at a fairly reasonable price. All you do is you take the axles off of it, and it's
Possibly the town parking lot on T-Mile Bay.
but it makes for good. The Wright Museum, we use 2 of those, but
Do you have any idea how much you paid for them?
they were purchased a long time ago.
Yeah. I mean, a good used trailer, the roof doesn't leak, but it's not roadworthy, it's probably a couple of $1,000.
Yeah, that would be my guess.
I mean, I think, I'm certainly not gonna tell the budget committee what to do.
Yeah.
The selectmen feel we need some storage. If you want us to wait a year to let Dennis get a
I mean, I
lot,
can live with what we have. Then downstairs, if you look downstairs, it is getting crowded on one wall with all kinds of stuff.
When you say downstairs, where are you talking? Down here?
Yeah. I mean, down the beach, we've got the big spool in the shed, and then, of course, we added a refrigerator for summer concerts with ice cream and all that stuff. So there's really no room in that shed at all, so. I mean, I could live with what we have now. That's not a big deal. But down the future, we should probably maybe look at it. Yeah.
Well, if we were to keep it at a 5% increase, we'd have to cut $3,800 out of the budget.
Okay. So if you drop that
So
from
we
8
dropped the 4,000,
Yep.
yeah.
you got it.
Yeah.
And so that would put you at a bottom line of 57,186.
We have a motion to that effect, or?
I'll make a motion that we approve Park and Recreation 4520 in the amount of $57,186.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? Forthcoming, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, thanks.
These big truckers,
Absolutely.
Old Dominion.
That lasted one snap, boom, it's on the floor.
Okay,
Good night.
moving on.
thanks Dennis.
Town clerk.
By the way,
Nice to meet you.
Okay. Go get him, Tiger.
Shelley, you come talk to us? Chip?
Usually Heather comes in.
You have town clerk next?
We do have one clerk. Do we want Heather or do we want to go through it? It doesn't,
Her explanations are usually pretty good.
right, we have 4 elections this year, so most of this is going to be elections.
Came as well, I was looking at the numbers.
Those 4 elections, and we had to pay for the state computer, they don't want to pay anything for anymore? For the printer?
And
You want Heather in here?
I don't know if we necessarily need it.
I see nothing.
I just don't see anything I would argue about there.
Yeah, it's up more than I would like, but there's nothing she can do about it because we've got 4 elections next year.
yeah, the big drivers are the supervisors, the ballot clerk, and
I do have one question. I often count ballots, and I get paid for it. And is there a way that I could not be paid for it? I
you
mean,
can give the money back.
is that what I do, is just give it back?
Yeah, I
to her?
think, right, and, I mean, we don't contract with you, that's a deal that we pay our ballot clerks. And
I mean, but
if you
it's
don't wanna
just-
accept the money, then it'll just go back in as revenue.
Oh, it goes back as revenue? I
Or
mean, it
we'll-
goes to
you know,
the
we can
town,
check
but-
your property taxes if we're thinking about doing that, right?
I know. I'm trying to keep the budget down so that it's not such a bad bite.
Yeah, but I mean, we need to, I mean, it's bad enough that we do nothing for our boards, and we need to at least take care of the people. We need to have the ballots counted, we need to have a crew to do it.
Well, I'm happy to do it, but I always get the check and I think, I don't need it.
It might be statutory, that's what, I can ask Heather.
I can ask
I
Heather.
think in this budget here, it's got the up and down of the election cycles, and other than that,
That's about
the
it.
numbers have not changed that much.
So I would move that we approve 4140 in the amount of $93,251 as requested.
I'll
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Solid waste. What? Clay, I'm sorry, Clay. Phraseology is everything in life.
Welcome, Clay.
Good evening.
I think we've all given the sheet of paper. I think the best way to start, and this way I usually start, is go over the labor line of the budget. That seems to always garnish the most interest. So if you refer to the matrix here, basically, the current position grade is on the left. Hours per week for each individual, hours per year. This year, as noted, we went to a 52-week year from a 53-week year, so it's a week off from last year's. The additional hours, you can look at the list all the way on the bottom. That's almost everything I can think of that we do additionally to the normal schedule hours. The grand total hours is to just add up the 2 hours per year and the additional hours and get the grand total. 2019 appropriated amounts there, and the bottom of that column is the total that came up to $144,076. The 2019 hourly wage was listed in that column for each line. And then the raise, COLA only for myself, and 3.7% for the rest of the individuals. 2020 new hourly wage rate.
So, I'm sorry, so the 2% is the step increase?
Yes.
Okay.
So for the other individuals, they get COLA and a merit increase. And I get COLA only because I'm maxed on my. The 2020 hourly wage rate there, that's what that works out to be on the chart on the next page. And I circled each individual. And that works up to a total and new grade, a new step position for each individual. That totals up to $149,641, which is, when you look at it, only looks like a $4,000 or $5,000 increase. But the reality is, we went back to a 52-week year from a 53-week year. I had COLA only, so that adds to reducing the deficit. And the major thing that I did not do in the previous budgets that I've done is on the holiday hours. We get 12 holiday days, vacation days. And in the past, I've always assumed, incorrectly so, that those days would come on a day we would work. And you get off and you get paid holiday time, so it would be no difference in total pay. It took me a few years, I'm slow on some things, it took me a few years to figure out why I was always 0.5 to 1% over on the budget line at the end of the year. I said, how can it possibly be? We're not doing overtime, we're not doing anything out of the ordinary, and I'm always 1% over. Well, this past year, 9 of the 12 holidays were on days that we weren't working, so you get that extra day of pay in the holidays. So I added, in additional time, that column there, I added the 6 out of 12 days, just took a 50% whack at it to try to reduce the time. So that's why the difference is 3.85% in the labor from last year to this year.
That mandated that they get all 12 holiday pay regardless whether you're working or not.
Correct.
I mean, they get 12 a year no matter what.
You get 12 holiday days a
They're
year.
all 12 work days, or they're none of them are work days.
Correct.
That's in the contract? Where's that?
Well, it's in the personnel policy for the town.
From the town.
Holiday days. Any questions on that sheet?
Again, not looking at each item individually, but looking at the whole budget. The labor portion is a reasonable increase, and the budget is also a reasonable increase, in line with inflation, or pretty close to it. I
Right.
have no problem.
And I understand.
Besides, I know you squeeze a nickel, Clay.
I try to get the most bang for the buck and everything. Our department, more so than I think the other departments, we're a cost-driven operation. I don't have control over, I can tell you right, just from the top of my head, $220,000 in MSW and CD. That's however much stuff is thrown away, that's how much stuff is thrown away, and that's how I have to budget. So I historically look back at the year before, how much off were we, and I try to forecast that to the future. And we've narrowed the gap in the last 3 years. The last 3.5, 4 years was an increase in the economy. Just blew us over the top on construction debris. And we were having double-digit increases in the amount of tonnage that we used each year. And so that creates the difference in the budget from $285 or $300,000 to $400 and some $1,000, because instead of only taking $45,000 for construction debris, I gotta take $100,000. So, that's the majority of our costs. The things I can control, are very few in the budget.
I got a couple of questions for you.
Okay?
432428, brush and stump grinding.
I just spent $1,500 today, and that was only 3 loads of brush out of what we started collecting a pile about a month and a half ago.
That's interesting, because we haven't spent any money on that for years.
All right, we have been working with one outfit out of Epsom, and then we started grooming the hill there, and we were using the brush with fill and grooming the hill. So
But as I
that was a conscious effort on my part to try to save some money for the overages we had in other lines coming up. Like I can tell you, we're gonna have an overrun in brush, and we're gonna have a small overrun in,
You charge for brush disposal?
yes, we do. Yep. Do we get enough? No, we haven't increased the pricing. We reviewed it a couple times. We haven't increased the price for what we charge since 2012 or 13.
I would think in this age of brush chipping that you wouldn't get that much brush.
Yeah, you would think. What we've seen the difference in is the construction debris, because the contractors are bringing, and they're buying these huge trailers, and they're making use of the huge trailers. And so rather than getting simple residential stuff, and we're getting more and more brush and construction debris from contractors. And, you know, they're benefiting the most, rather than having a 30-yard open top container on site for construction zone. Then, you know, they're getting the buck out of the middle if we don't charge them enough. We had a study a year and a half ago to try to fix the pricing for construction debris. We had a couple different issues that affected that price, and we pretty much got spot on into what we're charging now. And we just had to adjust slightly what we were charging for the dual axle trailers and single axle trailers and the dump trucks and the bigger trucks.
And it does amount to almost 25% of the budget.
Right.
So if we can offset that with fees.
Right.
Makes the world happy.
You know, I had interest in the transfer station encounters the last couple of weeks. I have a house up in Maine that kind of got left in a mess, and I've been going to the local transfer station, which is Greenwood and Woodstock combined. And it's kind of fascinating. They don't charge for dump stickers. They don't charge for construction debris. They recycle. They have a metal thing. No charge at all. Open 3 days a week, 3 employees. And how do they do that?
What's the tax rate in those
Tax
towns?
rate.
Well, you know, I pay taxes on my taxes is $1,800, which is about the same it is here in town. It's similar towns, you know, summer residents, winter residents, a lot of lakes and ski areas.
There are some things that are different. Paints are different. Hazardous waste stuff is different. Electronics is different. I think in Vermont and Maine, I don't think they have any fees.
The only thing these people charge for is Freon type stuff.
Yeah, they state mandated that
But
the
we're in the state
sellers.
of Maine, okay? And look at the other forms of income stream the state of Maine has coming back to the towns that we don't have.
I don't know about that. And I couldn't get to town hall to get a town report to find out what.
Well, like the electronics,
They're not open on Saturday.
like the electronics, in the sale of the TV to the customer to begin with, they add the charge on for disposal. So the town doesn't have to put up with it. We don't have to charge for it if we don't get billed for it.
I saw some roofers back in with a huge trailer and pitching right in there. So how much that? Free. I said, "Geez."
My question, Clay.
Good.
Last couple of years, you provided us with information on the amounts of money we've recovered from the various
Right,
recycling.
avoided costs.
Yes, we didn't see that this year.
I do that in January because it's labor intensive to get that amount.
Okay.
Because you have to take each individual commodity
Mhm.
and then you have to get the total used that year tonnage wise. So you have to track each amount and get that total. And then you take what it would cost you to put it in the MSW compactor.
Do you understand the process?
Okay.
Just,
Okay.
I was really.
Well, I was explaining.
I'd like to see, I think, well, maybe Tom and Barry, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe Tom and Barry don't know how you do that.
right.
That, to me, for example, when we made 0 on plastic and 0 on electronics, or whatever it was, that helps me
Right.
decide how the transfer station might run more efficiently and
Right.
things like that. But, so right now, I'm not prepared to vote because I don't have the information I need.
That,
Have you, I know that this came up this summer about recycling paper. Are we going to
We're-
go back to recycling paper?
as soon as it's cost effective to do so. So we've
Well-
talked about it
Mhm.
and I'm in, once we get through the budget process, I'm working with Mrs. Yes, Lydia
Sure.
came in, Mrs. Sure. And we're gonna do, redo a new brochure and we'll also step through the price of doing paper again. We have had discussions with a couple of the selectmen who attended, with Waste Management and a few other organizations, and we've gone over the same numbers we went over that I presented before. As of right now, it looks like it's still 10 months to a year out before they bring the machines for recycling paper up to snuff in the mills that we will be able to use them again. Right now, it's just not, it's
So-
not conducive. Talking about storage, you have to store that stuff. Okay, where do you put 23 tons of mixed paper? Not just waiting for somebody to buy it. They're not gonna buy it. We have to pay to get rid of it. And they're saying, no, we're not gonna take it. Because we take it to the mill and we can't get rid of it. Now what do we do with it? So
So then it just becomes an exercise in.
it's just an exercise in futility.
Right, but the citizen thinks they're recycling, they're bailing, but it ends up in the landfill. I mean, we'd rather be honest about it, and when we can make it happen.
Exactly.
Make it happen.
And Harvey Recycling out of Boston, outside of Boston, is one of the 3 top recyclers in the industry. And he made a presentation at the same briefing. They had 700,000 tons of mixed paper that they had to put outside, and then they ended up having to throw it in a landfill. So, there's a lot of things that go into that the average individual person really doesn't comprehend and understand. Anything that you do, you have to attach what it costs to do it. Okay, and this is, I think, what you're getting at. The avoided costs we've had in the past, let's say if it was $40,000 a year in avoided costs, I'd add that to the revenues we took in, and that was the total worth of the transfer station. As these commodity prices, like paper, have gone from positive to 0 to negative, the amount of avoided costs have gone down, 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 down. Aluminum cans used to be UBC only aluminum, 70 cents a pound. I'm shipping out at 32 cents a pound now. So there's commodities that are like that. We're still making money on cardboard. We're still making money on steel and tin cans, not a lot. We're still making money on aluminum, but everything else is in the negative. Single stream recycling has done that to us.
Well,
Okay.
I guess that in reading some of the information that came out of those meetings, it sounded as though it was, you paid less to get rid of the paper than you did to get rid of the landfill stuff.
No. Well, yeah, if the cost per tonnage to get rid of it, but then you have to add to that, what does it cost you to produce that? It costs me $25 a ton in baling wire and gripples. Then how about the labor to get, maybe it's $40 a ton for labor, and then storage, you have to add the cost of each thing along. Because if you add 60 or 90 tons of paper, I've got to have a guy right there all day. I can't have one guy covering 3 or 4 different aspects of the station. I have to have a person there, so then it's going to cost you a new person to stand right there. So that cost can be deceptive. That's why I said it's hard to figure. And you have to do that for everything and every commodity.
But more importantly, if there's no place for it to go, then creating costs doesn't make any sense at all. So when there's some place for it to go, even if it costs us money to get it there, then the debate becomes, do we want to recycle because we want to take paper out of the waste stream? But if there's no place for it to go, then there's no debate.
Yeah, and that's part of it. I mean,
Yeah.
you
I'll go
call up for
toe-to-toe
a tractor trailer.
I'll go toe to toe with Clay all day long about the notion that we should recycle more. But if his retort is, yeah, but where are you gonna get rid of it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the real bottom line. We used to be able to send stuff to China,
Right.
and we don't send anything to China,
Right.
so.
And the mills in the States.
Yeah.
So, and then they keep changing the specs too. So what is allowed in mixed paper? It used to be 20 things that were allowed in mixed paper. Now there's 6. And they keep changing it, and if you have that stuff in there, they reject the load. And then it costs you more. So. But anyway, hopefully I'll have that information to you. And that's what avoided cost does. It gives you a better picture of our total worth to the station. Now, I can tell you, this year, right now, at the end of this month, if the truckload goes out tomorrow, that's going out tomorrow, the end of this month, we will be at $105,000 to $107,000 of revenue with 2 months remaining, which is higher than we've ever been. So we're doing something right. Other towns are struggling.
And year to year, budget to budget, if you take out the C&D increase of $3,000, which hopefully is covered by fees, you're only looking at a $5,355 increase in the whole total budget.
Hey, tell me a little bit about your telephone system up there. What are we getting?
We have Spectrum.
Okay.
We tried 2 other ones.
Okay, so we have Spectrum.
And we bundled everything and got a 3-year contract for less money than it was costing us.
So this is telephone and internet?
Telephone, internet, and
Okay, so, all right. So the internet is in there, I wasn't sure.
right, and it's and that actually is costing us less than it cost just for the phone and internet before,
Okay.
and it works.
No, when I saw the number initially, I said I wasn't, I was
Yeah.
curious whether we had the
It's a
internet
constant fight with them because they have cost creep. You talk about mission creep in the
there. It's
airports.
cutting the cord.
It's cost creep, it's amazing that people can make a contract with you and say, this is what you're gonna owe, $132 or $132.85 a month for the next 3 years. And 4 months later, it's 143, 140. Well, different excise tax, different taxes. And you try to argue with them, it's, so.
Cut the cord. That's what I
Right.
ever did.
Our problem is that's not the only phone system that's worked there. And it provides us with good cable, so.
As a 5-year overview of this, using the numbers provided here, the budget has gone up about 50% starting 2014 the overall number.
And that's primarily due to exactly what I
Yeah,
told you.
and notice the yearly increases are interesting, because it, starting from 2014 to 15, it went up 23,000, the next year 21, the next year 21. 18 went up 41,000, to 19 it went up 21, and this year it's up 14.
Right, and that's construction
And the
debris.
14 is a nice number, 'cause that's about 4%, I would say.
Right,
How come it went up so much?
construction debris. We went
And that-
from
between-
382 tons a year to 685 tons a year.
Yeah, 53,000 to
And
103,000.
basically construction debris.
Yep, that's why I say we're at cost. You know, none of the lines that I have flexibility over went up.
But the construction debris didn't go up
That's a
much
cost.
this year.
No, no, because we fixed it a year and a half ago. We fixed it, and the little we had remaining was due to other issues we had that we fixed on a test program this year. And it's, you know, pretty much coming out.
And we could eliminate the line, I just assume eliminate the line, and just have pickup trucks in there.
Right,
You know, if you got a house job, you're gonna tear something down, rent a roll off.
Yeah.
Take it off of our plate, because it gets abused.
Right.
And I think it's still being abused.
Mhm.
Clay's done a bang-up job of trying to mitigate it, but, I mean, I've seen those trailers that come in there. I don't know, I know how many building permits we've issued in town, and it just seems a little excessive.
So Clay, I have a question for you. It's a $14,000 increase this year. If you go with my 5%, try and whittle it down, could you whittle 5% out of that anywhere? Or if not 5%, 2%, 3%?
well, you're talking 2% of it.
Just in the overall increase, that 14,000, that increase from last year to this year. There's got to be someplace in there where you could say, you know, we've been budgeting this amount for this for years and we've never expended that amount. Maybe we could drop that $500 this year.
Well,
You know, I mean, there's a
So
lot
you're
of
looking for
different
5%,
lines.
a 5% increase, and we don't even have that.
4%.
3.4%.
Yeah, 3.4%.
I round things off.
I mean, you're gonna have an increase in labor costs whether you like it or not. And as far as I mean, we haven't looked at revenues yet, but a lot of this is offset by revenues. I think there's
absolutely.
That's what
5 or 8
Absolutely.
of that that's
You
gonna.
just said he's way ahead in revenues. I
Right.
would think if you're way ahead in revenues, maybe something in here could.
Well, the problem is you have to budget for the cost, okay? And then it's gonna show at the end of the year because I don't get the revenues.
Right.
The revenues don't come back to me. So it's irrelevant to me budget-wise what the revenues are. I have to budget for, otherwise it's gonna show that I've overspent the budget by $5,000. Well, and of course, then, you know, you do that a couple of years in a row and everybody's going, whoa, wait a minute. And they don't understand that that's being paid for, but not directly. And I actually like that because I don't want anything to do with the,
And where did this $1,000 go?
But, you know, if you pick any line in here, you know, you were talking about hazardous waste, LRPC. They charge $4,200 for us to belong to their hazardous waste, which is a lot cheaper than we would be paying right now if we stayed in Wolfboro. And we get 2 days a year. I can't take a cent off of it because that's what they charge. Tires and Freon is based on two trailers a year rental on the trailer and 2 swap outs a year. That's basically an exact cost. Island cleanup day, we actually ended up having to spend more this year because of the problems we had with the container being dropped off early and picked up late.
Well, I would look at a line like mowing. It's 219,600, you spent 570, I assume you've done mowing.
Well,
But you're up to 750 for next year.
those, and sometimes mowing has to be done twice a year. It depends on
The year.
that year, that particular year. So if I, and it's hard to, I don't know if Billy Williams is gonna do the mowing for me or not. If he's not gonna do it, it's gonna cost a lot more than that. Okay, so I have to guess at, if I go to try to get somebody else, what will they do it for? Next year, it's probably gonna cost me more for Island Day because the guy had to make 3 trips during the day, as we were supposed to be all down there doing the stuff.
Would people fill it up ahead of time?
It was overflowing when I got there. So,
You gonna buy the uniforms this year?
yes. Well, I wanted to. I've had that in the line. We haven't used it in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
We had T-shirts and we had these. And I'd like to go back to getting at least T-shirts and some type of winter jacket. But I've always used that line to make up for, I wait until December.
Yeah.
And if we're gonna be over, then I use that line to cover the overages. So I held off from that. We had, the place I get them from is by the 7-Eleven there.
Yeah.
They give us a good deal. And they have the logo there now, so. Which actually, right.
And on the income line, I've got the MS 737 in front of me, just so that we can have a number in mind, but revenue from departments, which is primarily the transfer station, is $113,356 in 2018. So a lot of what you're seeing gets offset. But if we're just looking year to year, it's a 3%, 3.5% increase.
Yeah, it's
Year
like,
to year, 3.4%. You mean expenses?
and there's some things I don't have control over. The closure monitoring, that's always, and that's varied from $7,800 to $14,000.
That's an interesting line also, because it's 13,000, and only 6 got spent, and now
No, that says, yeah, there's another round.
another
The
round.
second half of the year's billing hasn't been done yet.
So do they do that twice a year, about 60?
It depends, it can be 3 times a year, depending upon if they have another report that's once every 18 months, or once every 2 years.
What is closure monitoring?
That's the landfill, when they button up the landfill and they do the testing each year.
Oh,
Okay. And then if they decide to do tests for more things, that adds to the cost. So,
And who tests that? Is that the state?
no, we use an organization named Stantec. They speak DES. All the charts and the graphs, I don't know who would understand them. And so you need to hire, Stantec is,
That's going out for bid again this year.
right.
Or this coming year.
The one thing I see, really the only thing in the whole budget where the selectmen disagreed with your request was you wanted $100 for recycling awareness.
Yeah,
And they wanted $500 for recycling
right, we're gonna
awareness.
bump that up, because of signage, and also working with Mrs. Schur. Somebody's gotta pay for pamphlets and I may have to pay somebody that is an expert in computers that can do that kind of stuff. And that's a valid point, we should be putting out more publicity. I try to get in every Tupman Road Times, I try to get in the Granite State. I've even put in a CIP for a trailer sign, which I think is the most effective. When they did, if you've been back and forth to Moultonborough, you see their sign out on the trailer that says hazardous waste day, August 19th, no latex paints. When they first put those signs out, they quadrupled their participation in hazardous waste day. That could be used not only for the transfer station, but all over town. So that and signage and
And it's an avoidance concept. I mean, one thing that keeps getting batted around is this notion of mandatory recycling.
right.
And I gotta tell you, as long as I'm a selectman, which is probably not much longer, we're not gonna have another rule and regulation in this town. So if we spend a little more money on awareness, get more people to recycle, that's a good thing. The whole idea of government mandated recycling, I find.
I'm sure people like Casella would love to see mandatory recycling in Shuffenburg. They would think that was wonderful, a lot more dumpsters in people's yards.
Yeah.
Well,
That would be good for them.
there's a lot of towns that went to single stream recycling.
Yeah.
Yes.
That are about to collapse.
Mhm.
And if they haven't already thrown in the towel, they will be. We made, and it was before me, it's not me.
Right.
This town made the correct decision. Whoever decided to set it up the way it set it, I would set it up a little bit different, but whoever set it up and set the course in motion should be applauded.
But we need to make more effort for public awareness. and that's
Do
what
you
I'm talking
have a
about.
rough idea what our percentage of recycling is, what we just?
Yes, I would say between 75 and 80%. And a lot of people jump right to it and say, well, it's the summer folks. Well, I beg to differ. The summer folks are used to doing absolute total recycling, and most of them are really, really good. It's just a few of the old boys who don't want to be told what to do. And that's okay. I have always preached to our guys up there is, you don't need to push green. If you don't believe in green, there's parts of green I don't believe in. But I do believe in the pocketbook. And so I always approach it like, you just threw $5 worth of aluminum cans in the compactor. If you take them down below, it takes money off our taxes.
Is there any way we can incent the commercial collectors to recycle?
Yes, I already have.
I mean, they pay a fee.
They pay an annual
An
fee.
annual fee,
And
but can we get them to,
And I offer them 20% off that fee for each commodity that they recycle.
okay,
And they have chosen
not to?
not to do it.
Of course not.
So you bring cardboard, you save $100 off your annual fee. You bring cardboard and aluminum cans, you save $200. They've chosen not to do that.
Well, yeah. that doesn't-
I've offered to outfit trucks, I've offered to get them together with Barbara over in Moultonborough, who used to do it. And I understand, I totally understand them, but that's a decision they should make.
Okay.
I'd like to move that we approve the budget for 4324 transfer station in the amount of $432,441.
I'll second that.
We'll move to the second. Do we have further discussion? Very good. Those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay.
I'd like
I'll
to,
give you the one.
I would like to request, Mr. Chairman, that the possibility that we reopen this budget when this information is provided to me, I might change my vote.
We'll take that into consideration.
Thank you, sir.
Get that.
No problem.
Thank you very much. Clay.
Thank you.
4130 executive. Whereas we only have one executive, so we have two executives sitting here. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, I don't know that we can present this budget because I think the selectman salary needs to be 35,000, not 15. But, given the number of meetings I have to go to.
It's already approved by the select.
We've got, yeah, that was a mistake. The only lines that actually have increased are the salary lines, which we have $1,121 increase based on grades and steps.
Well, the increase for the overall budget is 1.1% or $1,121.
I have a question though.
Sure.
On our clerical assistant, I'm well aware of what that entails and why it was put into place, but we
Right.
only spent $459.20. Do we really anticipate spending the full $3,000 this year?
We do actually, because we
Okay.
actually hired a clerical assistant.
Yes.
So now that that's happened,
Okay.
And, well, what about the administrative overtime also? That's only, you've only spent $478 out of a $2,000 budget.
right?
Do you anticipate that you will spend $2,000 next year?
I hope not, but I certainly would like to have it there if I need it.
Do we anticipate needing that much more? You mean, you could just simply double what you used?
Well, the year's not over yet at $478, and we're just starting into the budget season, and we do have elections, et cetera, that are going on this coming year, so I think cutting that line would be just cutting for the sake of cutting.
Is there a reason why the moderator's gone up so much? Is there an extra?
It's all
I
based
think
on-
that for elections.
Elections.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd make the motion that we approve executive number 4130 in the amount of $106,804.
I'll second that.
Seconded, further discussion. Those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? 7 no. Thank you. 4152, revaluation.
I love this one.
Well, yeah, it's going the right way.
Couldn't they all go this way?
Well,
So,
Yes.
The utility assessing, is that the same as last year? I mean, there
was a court ruling on the utilities, so I think that that's actually lower than the utility assessment last year. It's set, at least with the cooperative electric co-op, it's something agreement, I think PSNH's agreement as well. So those court cases are finally ending and the rate is being set. So less for our assessor to do, but still has to pick up any additions, et cetera, to lines being put in and whatever electric people do.
So we have finished our townwide evaluation.
We have.
Okay.
We still have, I think there's still some public meetings that they're gonna have, a meeting with residents. They're still ongoing. But, yeah, the process is done as far as going out in the field. And we're still working on the 19 budget, so we're still okay. Yeah, we did have to give some tax breaks to the electric companies.
So, I take it that you have not yet received the $50,000 invoice for this year's revaluation?
Yeah, I don't think did somebody speak? I don't think we have received all the billing.
We haven't received all the bills, no.
Yeah.
So that's, you're bound to spend that much more of that?
Probably gonna be pretty close to that.
and this year's is that much less because that much more got done last year.
Well, we're not doing a reval. That's done.
This year they reevaluated the entire
They
town.
looked at all the properties, reevaluated all the
And then
properties.
going forward, they do a fifth of the properties every year, they just look at them.
Right.
Otherwise, it would be a $250,000 hit.
It was, at one point, a lot more.
Mm-hmm. So they reassess a quarter of the properties every year, is that?
Yeah, a fifth.
Is it a quarter or is it a third?
Fifth.
I thought they told me it was a third, a third, and a third. at one
No,
time.
No, it's a
on
5-year
10-year or 5-year cycle. So it's 20%.
That's, did you get a copy of the contract?
No.
Should, it's right in
It's in your paperwork.
It should have been
Can
in
you
your,
paperwork from this week?
yeah.
See, I only got the stuff that came off the computer, some of this,
It's not in
Oh,
the-
okay,
some of
that's
this I
why,
did not
yeah.
get. I printed everything that was
Karen
on.
Well, that's why,
apologized,
it's always here for us, right after.
And I was away.
I'll grab it for you, pick it up
Some
downtown.
of the Greenwood Transfer Station.
Okay, that's fine.
I'll give him another copy. You can get another one.
I like that she included that this year, because
Yeah.
it hasn't always been included. I move that we approve the budget for 4152 in the amount of $46,224.
I'll second that.
Seconded. Do we have any more discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Zero, thank you. 4196, insurance. So it told me I had to bounce it out of my business. It's insurance.
Insurance.
The safety glass, the safety.
Small increase in workers' comp, and also a small increase in property and casualty.
I'd like to take a small moment to congratulate the town on the safety record because the modification on the comp went down, which means we saved some money on that one.
Still higher than average.
Hmm?
Still higher than average.
Well, I'll take some
I know,
versus
I
none.
know.
Well, we do get if we're good, part of that $36,000 comes back. We added it to,
I'm sorry.
but we get a refund from the insurance company at the end of the year if we haven't had any claims, or if our claim level is lower than. Which this year we got it, I think it was close to $3,700.
On the property and casualty or on the workers' comp?
I have to come back with comp, I don't think I would come back.
On the comp, right, it's on workers' comp.
That's pretty good.
So that's not reflected in the budget that we bring in as revenue.
Chip, why did workers' comp go up that much? Because we just renewed our insurance, and in general, workers' comp rates fell slightly in almost every category, at least every category we're in, which are different ones than what you're in,
Right.
you know,
Well-
than the town is in.
I can
You
answer
haven't got
that.
firemen, you haven't got policemen.
Right.
And you look at those rates, it's right to the roof.
It was interesting to me that they rate fire as much more dangerous than policemen.
Yes,
Oh, I would say so.
that
Yeah.
that actuarially is
Yeah.
correct. The other thing is there were 2 injuries at the transfer station, so that drove the rates up.
Well, that was in the mod factor, what I call the mod factor that we talked about.
Yeah.
No, people forget the transfer station is a industrial site.
I'm just surprised at how terrifyingly risky working at the library is. It's almost, it's half the risk of a volunteer firefighter.
I don't understand that, because that falls under clerical, and the rate is virtually non-existent. I mean, we pay virtually nothing for the office people. It's the guys that are the marine technicians that run ours up.
That's the ready factor. One of the change too is on the 50-week versus, why, what, went up?
No,
It was a 53 or 52-week payroll, so obviously the payroll driven.
Yeah.
So maybe the increased payroll this year versus next year is reflected in that.
Yeah, you've got 100, well, no, we don't have that much, you have a 1% increase in payroll charge. The loss ratio adjustment factor is actually down 6%. I'd certainly entertain looking at it again or talking to you.
Well, you know, I'm just wondering if people are in the right category.
Okay.
I mean, you can't argue the category, and, you know, but there's a definition of each of them, and
Right.
you know, I'm not gonna say I've won many of them, but I've won a few. So,
I mean, it's a creep, it's not a jump, but I'll certainly do my job to go out and look at it.
But with Primex is a direct writer, we don't have an agent anymore for this, right? So
We did add a
therefore,
police officer as well, so I'd have to look at last year.
no, I understand that, but so with the direct writer, we have no advocate, somebody can go after, can go back to them and argue our point for us. It's up to you, in other words.
Right.
How many options do you have of companies?
Well, with a couple, but Primex is always coming lower than everybody else because of the way they're structured.
Chip, the other thing I noticed is it looked like the coverage limits have been very much increased. This is on the coverage schedule, it doesn't have a page 2 or 3. I mean, a lot of things went from 2 million to 5 million.
Yeah.
Townwide assessment. Townwide assessment. She printed these up so that,
Yeah, but these are
Are you
things
on the
like business
property and
interruption
liability?
loss.
Yeah,
Is that where we're at?
that's one.
Right, that's
No,
included.
go one more page, I think.
No,
No.
one more.
Are those coverage limits asked for, or is
There you
that
go.
something the insurance company just brings on you? 'Cause
Well,
you-
it's part of the schedule. I mean,
Yeah.
you
No,
can
they-
request these
Right.
coverage.
Yeah, that would normally come from
From
the
the
town.
business,
This
from
is
the town,
this is what we
being requested.
Well, and then things like in the liability coverage, in the second paragraph on the next page, it says, this will allow members to offer some assistance to residents impacted by failed member water lines that result in water intrusion. Doesn't everybody have a well?
No.
No.
Do we have a water
There's two-
system?
At least 2 water systems in town.
Yep.
Oh,
I think
really?
there's 3 private subdivision water systems.
Yeah, but they don't belong to
No,
the
for
town.
example, the trailer park.
Right.
Yeah.
North Country
Yeah, but
Village.
they don't belong to the town, the water system, right? Am I
No,
wrong?
but they're part of the town.
But then why would the town be liable if,
I'm not sure there's a liability issue there, but
But that's what this is.
because it seems that the members at the North Country Village would be the one, if they own the water system, that they'd be,
They
the
have their own.
town shouldn't
they
have any
their own-
liability to them.
right, in
I
a
would
perfect
think.
world, we probably won't. But, you know, it's sort of, Beach Pond, Hidden Valley has a water system. They have a village district which hopefully has liability coverage. But if that liability coverage is exceeded, people aren't just gonna stop asking or looking, they're gonna come to town and figure.
Well, and then it also says, a few paragraphs down, we've limited our exception to the absolute pollution exclusion to sewer backup plans. Don't we all have septic systems? Right here.
I think so.
Yeah, I don't think there's
this is all boilerplate.
Yeah, I don't know that we
any,
can.
it's all, right.
I think, I don't know that we can write our own policy.
But if you look at the coverages, I mean, the coverages have all more than doubled.
Are they anticipating the increase in litigation?
Once again, I'm gonna have to call them. I mean, I look at the number, we've got a $2,500 increase on our property casualty insurance,
Wow.
which is, what?
I would dare say that the increases in liability coverages are negligible cost. I mean,
I'm
that's,
sure it has
not
everything
be-
to do with burning down towns in California.
Yeah,
I mean, they're all in the same business. We're paying for.
but it's not,
for that.
Yeah, I mean, you're not paying twice as much to get twice the coverage.
if you go to
In some
your,
cases, 3 times the coverage.
Yes.
but if you go to your car insurance, okay, and you go from $100,000 and $100,000 per person to quarter million, and you go to $250,000, it doesn't double the cost.
No.
It goes up like maybe $10 or $15, $20.
Well, although the overall insurance has increased 8% over last year, so I guess I'm just,
That's probably due to the value of the physical property.
I picked up a couple other coverages, which, no, but I don't remember us talking about this, but computer hardware replacement went from 0 to 150,000, and third-party claims for injury and property damage went from 0 to $1 million. That, the third-party claims for injury and property damage is probably a good idea to get some coverage there. But computer replacement, I don't know how much that affected them.
Do they have a similar to the residential where you can get an umbrella policy that increases your coverage substantially?
Bumper shoot.
Hmm?
A bumper shoot.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if municipalities can do that or not.
I know when I get my insurance bills and I look at them, Jesus, why'd that go up so much? And you call them up and you say, hey, what's up with this? And where can we save some money? And they always have an answer how they can save you $300 or $400 right off the bat so that you don't go shopping elsewhere. And if you do go shopping elsewhere, it seems they start out nice and low too. Only knowing it's kind of steamrolled like they all do. But sometimes I think maybe if you pester the insurance companies and say, hey, what can you do for us? And I bet they can do something.
Well, I'm gonna call up the insurance companies anyway, so I might as well call this one as well.
Why don't we table this?
That's fine.
Yeah, so that's a big item,
Yeah. Do I have a motion to table?
so moved.
I'll
Second.
second.
Moved and seconded, those in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to get more information from Chip.
Lucky.
And then the winner of the most patient person award this evening, Sue. Talk about health agencies.
Just talking about one.
Is that, is that,
4415?
Susie's here on health agencies?
Oh, yes,
what?
you did,
I'll do it now.
you signed one of the letters.
Right. I wrote the letter.
You watched the YouTube video of us talking about the health agency, so you had to come in to defend it?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Good job.
I can't remember which one.
And 68 hours of hunger.
The,
Increase of $1,060 over last year.
So this might not fall in your area, but I have a question about one of the items here, and I've always wanted the Blue Loon bus service. I see the Blue Loon all the time, I just never see anybody on it.
I never even see the blue moon.
I have to call them.
It's no longer blue.
County, does the
It's no
county,
longer blue.
lady from the county run that still?
No. Blue Loon is an independent operator. Tri-County Cap.
That's what I was
Didn't they
thinking.
start it? Tri-County
Yeah.
Cap
Well,
started.
they operate through Tri-County Cap.
They have a set route,
Yeah.
that's all I can tell you, they have a
Yeah,
set route.
I know they do.
But I think you can call them.
Yeah.
We used to have some people at North Country Village that took advantage of
I
it.
remember at one town meeting, one woman in particular speaking about how that
Well,
helped.
But that, beyond that, I know nothing.
that issue was raised last year,
They actually,
on Blue Moon, and, because we didn't have any statistics on how many people used it.
Well, they did, they
And
gave us
I-
statistics.
and I
this
think
year.
it's written up in here someplace,
Yeah, it is. It says that they, Tri-County Transit provided 225 trips for 11 unduplicated residents for a value of $6,315 for the town of Tuftonboro.
And how much are they asking?
300,
300?
3,000.
3,000, see?
that the,
I
when
can do
Which
better
is
than
the
that.
same as last year.
Hello, Uber.
well, they've been in operation, what, about 5 years, maybe?
No, at least.
Blue Loom, they've been there longer.
Longer than that, I can
That was
remember.
back during the big stimulus package. that-
They came in when we were on the
Yeah.
board before.
When I was a commissioner that came in and he said, no, if the towns are giving you money,
Right.
the county's not gonna give you money. You can't double dip.
I think Marge worked behind the Blue Room thing.
No, she was out of town then. No, it was,
On the,
That's interesting, 2015, you didn't get them any.
we didn't give them any.
No.
No.
I think because
They may not have asked.
they either didn't ask or they didn't give us statistics.
they didn't give us.
Did not respond.
They didn't, right. No.
So, well, I think that poor Sue has waited all evening. We should let her talk about it in 68 hours of hunger.
Please do.
Well, I tried to hit the high points in the letter, but this is our 5th year, the 5th school year that we're beginning. And I think the second year we did it, we were getting 3,000 from Tuftonboro. And then for some reason, they came in and asked for less.
34, 20, and 18. Before that, you were at 25, 2, 2, so it started at 2, went to 25, then jumped to 34, 20.
Right, and then they, for some reason, it got dropped down to 14, which I didn't realize. I was told it was 2,000 and I didn't check it. But
Right.
we've had a complete change in our leaders. Our local chapter leader has changed, and our committees have all been reorganized, and our bookkeeping is getting better. So we're starting to get a much better grip on what things cost. It's really hard to calculate because you're providing, I forget how many, it was 3, 6, 8, 7 or 8 meals for a weekend for these kids. And you're supposed to do it for $10 a bag. When we started, well, you can't, even with donations that people bring in. So as near as we can tell, it's running around 12 per bag per weekend, per student. And that's these numbers here, this 3,714 is just direct food cost for students at Tuftonboro School that we,
Okay, that's just a question.
people, like, tomorrow I'm going to pack food, which I will spend 2.5 hours packing food for all the students. We have some help. Yesterday, or today, the Brewster students, probably as we were sitting here tonight, they were in there packing 70 bags. We'll go in tomorrow and pack the rest, which would be 60 to 70 more. And then we put them in our cars, and we all head to different schools to get them distributed.
What do you put, what kind of food do you give them?
We do the best we can with the budget that we have. You know, they get, every week, everybody gets Kraft macaroni and cheese, you know, the box. Sometimes it's a different brand, but that's the one thing they all want every week. The week,
Staple of life.
it
Yeah,
is.
when I was a broke student, that's what I lived on.
Exactly. They get-
Ramen noodles.
Chef Boyardee.
We don't do ramen noodles, there's not enough substance in that, not enough calories for protein and stuff. We do canned hot dog, beans and hot dogs, canned macaroni of some sort, Vienna sausage, they love those.
Spam.
Have we got the spam yet? Yes.
We, once in a while, we do get some spam, the little, they have little cans
Little
with
kids.
pop tops.
It's actually
They-
quite expensive.
Yeah.
If you looked at per pound price.
Anchovies are much better.
They love that. There's always one, you know, apple or orange, there's one fresh fruit, there's always granola bars, peanut butter crackers, applesauce.
And is this a similar amount of money that you get from each town?
No,
Okay.
How many towns?
we're doing all
How big is
the,
this program? 'Cause
we're
I see
doing,
advertisements that, you know, donate here, there, every 60.
we're doing the school district. We're doing Governor Wentworth,
Okay.
elementary schools
Is
and
there another
preschool.
one that does other surrounding?
They're
Okay,
they're
good.
nationwide,
Okay.
but the founder actually lives in Dover, so she started it in Dover. So, yeah, we even do Middleton Elementary because they're sending kids to the
So you do the
district.
Governor Wentworth
Right.
School District.
And there's
now.
people at Kingswood that come up to the hospital and pick up the Middleton bags and take them down. Ossipee has 70 kids that we feed every week. They can't pay for that in their budget, they just can't. So, but they're so thankful and appreciative and helpful. When we go to deliver, they have people out there waiting to get the stuff, to take it in, just to handle it. all
So
that.
what's the stuff that's in the school, how's it distributed by the, after that?
It goes to the nurse's office
Okay.
in each school,
Yeah.
and they're responsible. There's a district coordinator at Kingswood who collects the names from the staff at the different schools. Initially, it was who was getting
Free and reduced.
free and reduced. And now it's a little beyond that, where the staff at the school recommend
Okay.
based on the behavior of the students or their knowledge of the students' families or whatever, so.
No, the only reason I mentioned it, I was curious, is because, you know, it becomes much more than just a economics issue, it's gotta be a social issue as well.
We get huge favorable response from the people in the school, the staff there, they're so happy, and they always thank you when you drop the stuff off and everything.
Mhm.
They really appreciate it. The kids, they get excited about it, it's the feedback that we get, they can't wait.
Now, do all the towns in the school district have their own program and donate money? Oscar, you said that Ospey can't afford it.
They do, yes, they do donate.
They do
Yeah,
donate?
Yes, but proportionately to the number of students, not as much, but they do recognize that it does help their welfare budget.
Yeah.
So,
Well, the program's wonderful, but as Gordon was mentioning for social issues, you're treating the symptoms and not the disease because you can't treat the disease.
right,
So the kids are getting the food, one way or the other. and
it helps them learn. Anything that can help them learn, I'm all for it. So, that's what we're about. So that, we have better numbers this year, so that I know, I can very safely say we're spending $3,700 in direct food costs for Tufton Borough students. And everything else is donated. Nobody's paid, nobody's even reimbursed for gas. People drive to Market Basket in Dover
to buy. Every 2 weeks, they're buying massive case lots of things.
Does Market Basket help out with some of it?
They're
The
very
food that they-
organized, and they have it all, we put the order in, they have it all set aside for us, and they help us load it in the cars. I don't think they give us any discount, but I'm not in that department, so. Yeah, because it adds up, it's quite a lot of stuff.
Can I ask that, the Tyler Blaine Homeless Shelter, where is that?
I don't know, I've never heard of it, actually.
I hadn't either. And so
Well,
I wrote, what is this?
They
I'm
don't name it by name in here, but it's, once again, it's, each one of these people send in a letter.
Yeah, I see that.
Did you get those?
I just got them tonight, I haven't had time
There you go.
I haven't had time to read them.
And there wasn't much in here about it. It's right here. It's this one that says Coos, Carroll, and Grafton Counties homeless. And they didn't really, say it's based on,
50 cents per area resident. So it's based on census.
Sue, thank you so much.
Thank you,
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And keep up the good work.
So I can find out what the Tyler Blaine homeless shelter is. I don't think it's here necessarily in Carroll County. Because we're in the Grafton.
Yeah,
The last study I saw was that Grafton, Coos, and Carroll had documented 3,800 homeless people. So basically the town of Tuftonboro is homeless. So if-
Are we gonna go through each one of the line items on the health agencies? And go, I've got a couple of questions. On Tri-County Action, for instance. They're in for 6,192, and yet they only asked for 5,000.
well, the 5,000 is for the tri-county cap. The extra 1,192 is for the homeless shelter, which is this one page,
Oh,
but it
okay.
doesn't really say anything. Well, so, Chip, does that mean we have 1,233 homeless people in Tuftonboro?
No, I don't think so.
Well,
I think what that means is that there are 1,000, where is it again? I'll find it.
1,033, 50 cents per resident.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't do the math for them, so.
oh, I didn't
I'm
check
just
them out,
guessing.
but I just,
Okay.
Because
so.
if you read their line of reasoning means that we should be dividing 1333 by 2 to get a dollar amount, which is considerably less than the other 92 they're asking for.
Yes, yes.
So
You
they've
know,
got a
I'm-
population in Tuftonboro of 1,333, which is wrong.
You know, these people all provide a service that we would have to pay somebody else, or we would have to have somebody here in town to do it. So I'm really torn, but I just think that we do ask them to specify, and I didn't see any specific aid to Tuftonboro residents for that. So my inclination would be to just give them the 55, or give them the 5,000.
I agree with you.
And the same with the American Red Cross, and we did, there were years when we gave nothing to the Red Cross because they did not say, well, they asked, but they didn't say how much they had given in aid to
And they can't.
Tufton Borough residents.
Yeah, that's been their excuse, that, you know, because of their national organization and, I guess I don't know how they come up with those dollars, but, it's,
And then
we
the,
didn't give to them last year, did we, because
I
didn't we?
think it was the year before.
The year before, because they didn't, because of that reason, that we didn't know how much.
It was,
2 years, 15
it
and
was
16.
15 and 16.
And, but then if you read, you know, their letter, of course, you know, you're dealing with the taking of blood, the distribution of blood to hospitals, you know, it's, I guess it probably would be an accounting nightmare to turn that into a town-by-town calculation, but,
I'd like to see the order.
and you don't want to know what the executive director of the American Red Cross gets
Yeah,
on an
as I
annual,
said,
I think
I
it's
look at
somewhere
their
around
overhead.
$700,000 a year.
Well, more than that.
But,
We also have a new item that we didn't do before, the Wilboro Senior Center.
yeah, and their comment was that they something about 7%, but they didn't say 7% of what.
Well, no, we did. Hopefully it was
Maybe we did, but last year we didn't.
oh, last
Have you read all this stuff?
Yeah.
I didn't get any of this, I don't know. I'd love to read
Yeah, we
it
did.
just before I make a decision.
But not last year.
Yeah.
So it's not really new, it's just we didn't give any money last year.
Well,
I can't find Google.
yeah, they didn't present any financial, it's about midway through the package, and they indicate Tufton Borough residents are next in size with about 7%. We are asking to reinstitute the $1,500, but, and then they're talking about 85% of guests are, and I'm just not quite sure, there's no financial information, but,
Are you on caregivers or?
Senior center.
it's it's senior center,
The building you're talking about there and now.
What's that?
That's what we have, most of the senior activities are on Lander Street,
Um,
and that building is in desperate need of
That's the old fire station.
either repair or replacement.
and they supply a meals program and daily activities for seniors. We're asking, and they're asking to reinstitute the $1,500 allocation from the town of Tufton Borough. They didn't request anything last year.
I think
Oh, is
that
that
was
why they
their
didn't get it?
oversight.
Hmm?
They didn't request it last
They
year?
didn't request it last year. And I guess I'm just, I don't know how, you know, if we have any seniors that participate in it, or,
The back page of most of these little things right here says if you need more information, get in touch with us and we'll be glad to tell you. So maybe we should delve into this a little bit deeper and see.
well,
I haven't read any of this, so I'm numb as anything. I'd like to read it all before I decide what to do about some of these things and what they are, 'cause I don't really know what they are.
and the Kingswood, I made a couple of calculations on, for instance, the Kingswood Youth Center. They serviced 33 of our students last year, and they collect from town stipends $14,500. And and I guess they had a total of of 33 students.
We have an
And
increase.
we were paying, we should only, if we give the 12% on that calculation, the request should be about $1,800, not $3,000.
Is that the Kingswood Youth Center?
Yeah. If we give the 12% of the town stipends, and that's how that's that portion that we're in, they have donations, food donations, gift cards, etc. They collect $190,000. We're only in there for 12% of 14.5, which is, my calculations is $1,800. But those, now, the student body, the ones that, the youth center, the population may change year to year, but
I think they're talking 12% of their income, or 12% of their budget.
yeah, and
Then you're at $2,280. So, I mean, I'm not here to justify their math, but that's closer to the $3,000 they're looking for.
I wonder why they just didn't say what number of students from Tuftonboro is instead of a percentage.
I guess I'm
You know?
just gonna have to say it, you know. We may be the budget committee for Tuftonboro, but we are not just the budget committee for Tuftonboro. We're also citizens of the larger community.
absolutely, and
And if these services weren't available,
we
and
couldn't
they're not
afford
gonna
to do
all be
it.
housed here
No.
in Tuftonboro for the future.
I was just basing it on again, on a mathematical approach. They're saying that their expenses are $190,000 and they collect $190,000. And out of that 190, if 14,500 comes from towns contributing, and if they service 12% of us, that's where the $1,800 comes from. Rather than the 20, and maybe nit, but and I totally agree.
I think-
I'm not against,
Yeah.
what.
I think if you take the 14,000 and divide it up by 4 towns, you end up with $3,000 a town. I mean, how many towns are involved in this that they're getting money from?
Well,
It's Kingswood, so it's Wolfboro, Tuftonboro,
yeah.
Ossipee, Brookfield, Effingham.
Do students from all those towns go to the Kingswood Youth Center?
I don't know.
I have no
I'm
idea.
not here to audit their programs, they presented an ask.
I would have to believe a disproportionate number of the students come from Wolfboro,
Yes.
because they're the ones that can get there and get home.
Yeah, because the transportation issues has always been an
I
issue.
I think we're
Yeah, but
subsidizing
the
some of the
late
other
buses-
towns, is what we're
The
doing.
late bus that leaves stops there, and they pick up an awful lot of kids.
Yeah.
There are an awful lot of kids initially in the afternoon from Ospey coming in Effingham, because the late bus will pick them up, and then keep on going north in the afternoon.
It's,
Well, now, this budget is a 12% increase over last year, $4,773. But I really do feel strongly that these are services that are really needed. So I'm happy with approving this budget.
Kindly make the motion.
I'm not disagreeing.
Okay. What do you? what
No,
is
I
your-
said I'm not disagreeing at
Oh,
all.
I
at
thought-
all.
oh.
No, no.
Well, I propose that we approve the budget for 4415 in the amount of $44,774.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Good enough. Very good. And that concludes that. I have no correspondence this evening. New business, Tom, CIP?
CIP had its most recent meeting last week. Has heard from everybody who was requesting capital improvement, and has deliberated on trying to bring, as always, there was more money requested than is, you know,
Figure it out.
than is available using the guidance of the town's trend line for tolerance for capital improvement projects, which goes up over a period of time. And it was off by about $275,000. And the committee has tentatively moved some things around. Clay wanted to sign, police department wanted to sign. It's approved the way the CIP did it, neither one of them is going to get a sign next year.
Electric signs?
Electric signs.
We don't need
We don't think so either. You know, like the ones at the side of the road that
The
tell you
roadside.
speeding, or Clay wanted one that was, he wanted to be able to tell people it's hazardous waste day or something like that. And they offered to share it, but neither one of them wanted to let the other one have it. And in fairness to the chief, he pointed out, it's not just a matter of, oh, we can have it today. He said, I gotta get a truck, I gotta send somebody over to get the sign wherever it was last used, we gotta hook up to it, we gotta bring it to where it's gonna be.
Security.
And so on. Yeah, national security. There were a few other items that were tentatively pushed out. There was $100,000 requested as a, my mind just won't come up with the right term, but a set aside for the future new police department, and cut that to $50,000. Cut a few things where we could. We're still a little over, and of course, sometimes the selectmen override us.
Go for 5%,
And-
whenever possible.
And, yeah, well, actually, I think we got within 5%. But whether it'll stay that way, I don't know. Anyway, we're at the point where we're preparing our report. As you know, in a few weeks here, I will put on my CIP hat and present the report to the budget committee, at which point I will then move over to the budget committee and consider the report. But we're preparing the final report now. We're in that stage.
Chip, anything from Selectmen?
Yeah, Tom and I had a great meeting the other day. Still waiting for the quotes to come in.
But did you talk to, I can't say his first name, Mr. Halverson?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mr. Halverson. And
Was he encouraging that he can get you what you want?
Yeah, they felt that there
encouraging.
might be some duplication because we've really contacted a lot of companies this year to try to figure something out. We're sitting on a 7% increase in healthcare currently, what we have, so they all know what we need. The selectmen continue to work on budgets. We're gonna present a warrant that we feel is workable, and maybe the CIP isn't gonna like it, but I liked the way the library progressed with capital reserve, and then fund it. The one thing that drives CIP more than anything else that I can see is debt. And if you can eliminate debt, you're a lot better off.
Yes, there's so little that is actually flexible on
Yeah.
those warrant articles. So much of it is locked in because it is debt.
Right. And if we can wean ourselves off of that, I think we'll be all better off. I don't know, am I forgetting anything, Lloyd?
No, right on.
I'm sure we'll have more budgets for you. We're trying to work our way through it. I'll go over the health care, or the insurance budgets. Maybe we'll do all the insurances next time. Hopefully they'll have all the information. Our anniversary date isn't until the end of December, but that doesn't make any difference to you people.
It's all part and parcel, part of the package. Okay then, next board meeting is scheduled for the 12th of November. More public input?
Thank you very
Forthcoming?
much.
I apologize for being late. I don't, are we meeting at 6:30 now?
6:30, yes.
I don't know
No, 6:30.
why. 6:30.
It used to be 6.
I just, when Karen was out today, I'm lost without, someone to put me in my place.
Okay.
All right.
All we good, move to adjournment?
So move.
Second.
No second, those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Maybe we should change.
Karen,
I
Heather's
think
asked
it's
everybody to go out this
out.
door through Jack's office. Everything locked up front and the alarm's on, so go that way. Thank you.
Okay.
I know I need
Oh, well,